gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's October the 5th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. It's Wednesday, Matt. North Carolina game slowly getting here. And we can feel the urgency in the Miami football program. It's very, very serious this year. In fact, we met with Tyler Van Dyke yesterday by way of Zoom, and we both were struck by just how razor focused and sort of stoic his demeanor was, and kind of seeing that throughout the whole team this week. But I'm hearing good things about practices. They feel good about their preparation for North Carolina. You took a deep dive into North Carolina. We have a story on the website this morning starting to take a closer look at the Tar Heels. Your thoughts on the challenge that Miami faces on Saturday?
Well, I'll tell you what's not in my story, because you guys can read the story. The story is a news story which breaks down what North Carolina has done this year, how their offense has been outstanding, how their defense sucks, how they're an amazing 4-1 after they weren't supposed to be very good, how they have a quarterback, new starter who's a freshman who's doing really well, 2 really good receivers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what's not in the story is that I'm still not sure what North Carolina is. Their 4 wins 3 of them were against FAMU, App State, and Georgia State. App State they barely beat by scoring 1,000,000 points in the last quarter. I know App State beat Texas A&M, but that's like saying, well, Middle Tennessee is an amazing team because they beat Miami. It's a one-off. App State doesn't have anybody on scholarship that would, be a starter or anything close to it, or maybe even a scholarship player at North Carolina or Miami for that matter. And then the other one was against a Virginia Tech team that's, I think, had a losing record 3 of the last 4 years, new coach, new offense and defense. So, I mean, to me, you sort of have to throw out everything except the Notre Dame game, which they lost. And they did score 32 points in that game and looked okay. So we're basically, to me, we're judging North Carolina on one game which they lost. And everyone's quick to say, oh, this offense is amazing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, Mac Brown's been around the block. He knows what he's doing. The offensive system is great. It's a very simple system. And, I'm not sure, initially before I started writing this, I thought Miami would have to score, 31 or more points to win this game. But now I'm not so sure. I don't know that North Carolina's offense is necessarily as great as everyone's saying just because of the competition they've played. I mean, yeah, they're averaging 45 points a game and over 500 yards a game. That's insane. They're a good offense. Don't get me wrong. They're a really good offense. Are they an elite offense in the country? One of the top 10 or 15 or 20 offenses? I'm not sure. We're going to find out this weekend. And if they are, Miami's in big trouble. If they're not, I think Miami will win this game, by a touchdown or 2 or more. That's my personal thoughts. Do you care to weigh in, Mr. Ferman?
Yeah, I think their resume is better than Miami's right now. I mean, you take a look.
You put that at about 50 or 60 teams.
Well, I mean, the one thing that's clear is that their defense is not very good. Okay, yeah. Appalachian State,
terrible defense.
Appalachian State had their way with North Carolina's defense, put up 61 points. But the bad news is North Carolina was able to score 63 themselves to win the game. Absolutely unbelievable. And keep in mind that when App State went to College Station to play Texas A&M, they won by a 17-14 score. So think about this. The App State defense only gave up 14 points to Texas A&M. They gave up 63 to North Carolina. Same exact defense within a very short time. So I think that if you're Miami, this is a circle the wagons game. I think the defense must bring max intensity, similar to what we saw in College Station. I believe that Kevin Steele will have a good game plan. He's very familiar with these offensive coaches and what they like to do. And I think that it's going to be up to the defense to keep the scoring under control and not allow Miami to have to get into a shootout because the offense has been struggling. That said, this should be a breakout game for Tyler Van Dyke and the offense. And I know that there's a lot of injuries and things like that, but North Carolina is not very good on the defensive side of the ball. Miami offensively has had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, and I really expect a good performance on Saturday from the Canes. I really do. I'm looking, at Miami winning this game, and we'll be talking more about it as the week goes on. I'll have Lee Sterling on our You Bet CaneSport show. We'll break it down as it pertains to the betting line and things like that. But I think this is a good bounce back opportunity for Miami. And, I kind of agree with you in that regard, Matt, but I do think that their offense is very, very dangerous.
I mean, look, let me just add this, okay? If you're using Notre Dame as the template for, okay, they played one team that I think we both would agree is really good. The other teams, maybe they beat somebody here or there, but they're not considered top-level talented teams. So against the one good team, they're losing 38-14 5 minutes into the third quarter, okay? The quarterback threw 5 touchdowns, but 3 of those were in garbage time, including an 80-yarder and a 64-yarder with under 2 minutes left. They had 66 rushing yards and 2.4 yards per carry, North Carolina's offense in that game. And the quarterback couldn't do anything until it was pretty much over, and they were just, playing sort of a soft defense against him. So again, I'm going to go with the theory that I am not sold yet on how great this offense for North Carolina is. I mean, that's just what happened with the only talented, high-level D1 defense they saw this year. They struggled until it was 38-14. They were losing, and then the soft defense, they put up a lot more yards, but they still only had 364 total yards in that game against Notre Dame, and 80 of those came on one play. So take away the one bust, they had 270 offensive yards in that game. Like, again, I'm just not – I'm on the bandwagon. They have a really good offense. I'm not on the bandwagon. This is a top 10 or top 20 national level offense behind a true freshman who they had an issue in that one game where they just happened to put up a lot of – he put up his big stats late when it was already over. I mean, that's just my perception of it. That's all.
Well, we're going to get a good read on Saturday. They're averaging 45.4 points a game, 507 yards coming into the game. At the same time, their defense gives up almost that many yards.
Defense is awful.
And 33
and they were awful last year. I mean, Miami should – look, if there's ever going to be a bounce-back game for Tyler Van Dyke, this is it. I mean, if he doesn't do well in this game –
then we're having a whole nother conversation.
It's game over. If he doesn't throw for over 300 yards with 3+ touchdowns, explosive plays, then it's time to follow the Matt Shodell plan from yesterday's Good Morning.
I'm not going to throw out a number like 300 yards because receivers got to catch the ball and they got to get open too. But there's every opportunity for everybody to eat in this game. Okay, and yes, Tyler should be rock solid.
Okay. Well, first of all, you're wrong. Okay.
Wrong about what?
If North Carolina, North Carolina's defensive game plan is going to be to do what the last two teams did, which is stack the box. So if he's not throwing for over 300 yards, that means they're still throwing checkdowns and stupid little passes and trying to run against 7- and 8-man fronts. He needs to throw for more than 300 yards. I'm sorry, Gary. You can blame the receivers, you can blame whoever you want, but if he doesn't put up numbers, this is going to be a slog.
I agree, but there's a lot of variables that go into the final yardage that he has at the end of the game. I think more significantly, he has to play rock solid, and the offense has to be productive the entire game. And it's time here in week 5 for us to see that really for the first time this year. And, so I don't think that that's an unfair expectation. And I think that, he's going to be under the gun to perform better, as he should be. I lined up opposite you. Of course, I ended up right.
About what?
That he was going to start the game and that he should start the game. And
wait. You think you're already right that he should start the game, even though it hasn't happened yet, how he's performed? You think you're already right? Because I said he was going to start.
There's no doubt I'm right. But
if he comes in and throws 2 interceptions in the first 3 series, that makes you right still? Like, that's to be determined, don't you think?
Let's hope that doesn't happen, okay?
Yeah, but you can't declare yourself right.
For Tyler Van Dyke, but
you can't declare yourself right. Even this week, you can't declare yourself right until he plays a good defense again. You can't say, I was right. Tyler Van Dyke's amazing.
We've argued about
and guess what, Gary? I didn't say that Tyler Van Dyke's terrible. I just said give Jake Garcia a chance. Like, listen, I don't understand what the problem is in your brain that you think you hear me saying something that I'm not.
I come in peace today, okay?
I don't think so.
Like, I come in peace. I don't want to argue about Tyler Van Dyke anymore. I knew
then don't put words in my mouth about that. Somehow I said Tyler Van Dyke's terrible. I never did.
I knew that he was going to be the starter. I knew that he should be the starter. Now it's up to him.
You knew that he should be the starter. That's the problem I'm having with that sentence.
100%. There was never a doubt in my mind. And I never hesitated one bit. And I've said a million times, I am a big Jake Garcia fan. I just don't think Jake Garcia's time is right now.
You not understand how the English language works?
This is Tyler's time, okay? And you know, everybody can't have their moment at the same time. This is Tyler's time, Tyler's moment. He earned it. He had a horrible game last week. He can't have another horrible game. Totally agree on that. So we'll see what happens.
Here's the problem I'm having with your sentences and the way you use the English language. He should have been the starter indicates that he already has proven that he should be the starter. How has he proven that, Gary? I'm just asking you, honestly. I mean, you said it's the right.
When you're evaluating it, Matt, you look at the entire body of work. You don't look at 2.5 quarters of his worst performance of his career against Middle Tennessee State, a game in which nobody on the team was clearly prepared to play.
Okay, so now you're clarifying. That's much better. I agree with that. It sounded like you were saying,
I don't overreact to that.
It sounded like you were already saying that this was the right decision based on the future results, which is what I was having a problem with.
We don't know what the future results are. I mean, I am optimistic that he's going to play much better this week. He's capable, certainly, of playing much better. He's been practicing well from what I'm hearing.
He's never not practiced well.
I agree. So maybe that was just an aberration. And maybe everything just snowballed. Maybe the defense also gave up 4 bombs, and the whole team ended up spotting these guys 38 points. I mean, you know, there's a lot that happened in that game.
You know what really bothers me is the mental situation, because Jake Garcia comes in. The defense was awful all day. Jake Garcia comes in, and fans get into the game. He throws that first touchdown. All of a sudden, the defense is inspired and gets 2 sacks in their first 3 and out, I think it was. I don't understand why the defense couldn't have done that without having fans cheering or the offense throwing a touchdown. That bothers me.
Correct. I totally agree. Like, where was that effort the whole game? And we didn't really see it after that either. That was a one-series flash in the pan. Look, the whole team didn't come ready to play. There's no doubt about it. The coaches had a bad day at the office. It happened. It's time to let it go. I'm expecting a much better performance against North Carolina. I hope we get it, and I hope we can move on from this quarterback nonsense that, you know, I knew was coming. At the minute they had to make that move in the middle of the third quarter, I knew this was coming like this, and I thought it was just terrible for the whole program, but it is what it is. I mean, Tyler was rattled. Mario had to sit him down at that point. And getting Jake playing time there was a good move. Any way you slice it and dice it, it was the right move and a good move. But that doesn't mean that you give up on Tyler Van Dyke, who has the body of work that he has, and he will get his opportunity to right his ship on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. Let's see, a few other things worth talking about is that North Carolina's offense is spearheaded by a redshirt freshman quarterback by the name of Drake May. And you remember Sam Howell running that offense. Well, Drake May has been running it pretty much as impressively as Sam Howell did to this point in the season. As Matt, you know, like he occasionally does, astutely pointed out, this is their toughest day could be coming Saturday. I mean, you know, the Notre Dame game was just so-so for them. We're expecting Miami's defense to really be amped up for this game. They've been practicing well, and they should be able to test North Carolina quite a bit, especially when you consider North Carolina's coming on the road, how important the game is, and just the intangibles of Miami bouncing back from that experience a week ago, which is why you're seeing them made 5-6 point favorites going into the game.
Didn't it go down to 3 yesterday or something? I can't remember. I think it went down to 3, but whatever.
It'll be somewhere in there, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, the line changes, but it'll be 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there. But Miami will be favored going into the game. If they're reacting, maybe it's to injuries or whatever. Who knows why the
Listen, I'm sure. Are you going to do your you bet whatever?
Yep.
Teams?
Yep. We will have you bet with Lee Sterling this week.
This is I don't bet on games, but it seems to me, and I would never bet on or against Miami because that's not what a reporter does. But if I was ever going to bet, it seems to me that it's almost like a stock that's just it's a good stock. They have it's plenty of talent at the company, but it's just been sliding and sliding and sliding. And then this other company is just going up and up and up its stock, even though they don't have any great products or things like that. So to me, like a 3-point line,
kind of like Twitter.
This
kind of like Twitter this week.
If Miami had not blown that Middle Tennessee game and those 4 plays and the idiocy of that game, if they had never played Middle Tennessee, as a matter of fact, I think Miami's a 7 to 10 point favorite in this game. I mean, that's probably talent-wise and program-wise what it should have been. And again, North Carolina really hasn't played anybody. I mean, unless you consider App State a great team, they played Notre Dame and lost. And they were getting killed in the third quarter. So you could ask your friend Lee Sterling. I think a 3-point line is pretty good if you're a Miami fan and you want to bet. I wouldn't bet more than $5, but I think for $5,
it's about right. It's what it should be. One thing that we could talk about in terms of May is that Miami's going to have to be aware of is this is a guy that can make plays with his legs. He is not afraid to tuck the ball and run. He has 255 rushing yards so far this season. He scored 3 touchdowns on the ground. So while there will be a lot of pressure on the secondary covering Josh Downs and their other receivers, there's going to be pressure on the linebackers too. Somebody is going to need to be spying on Drake May and making sure that he doesn't get too many cheap yards scrambling with the football, because I'm sure Miami is going to try to put a lot of pressure on him. That's an obvious strategy for Kevin Steele, is to bring the pass rush to the best of their ability. Now, this guy Josh Downs, Matt, is a really good receiver, and if Miami, he's what Miami's missing. A guy like that is a true weapon on offense. He had a school record 101 catches a year ago. So far this year, he's got 22. So he's on pace for a similar type of season. And I'll note that he's got that 22 in only 3 games because he missed 2 games to injury. So, he's averaging 7-8 catches a game. Pretty darn good. And Miami's going to have to stop Josh Downs. And one of the things that we have on the website today is Tyreek Stevenson's weekly blog with us. And Tyreek talks in there about the challenges of North Carolina. And you guys are going to want to make sure that you check that out as well. But Downs, Matt, is not the only quality wide receiver they have. They got a guy named Antoine Green, who also has a couple hundred yards receiving. They have a guy named J.J. Jones, who's right there. So those guys are going to have to be covered as well. And this is going to be a real test for Miami's cornerbacks, who have been hit or miss so far this season.
Yeah, and Green's only played in a couple of games, averaging over 100 yards a game. If the Miami cornerback situation isn't figured out, and I have a feeling they're still going to be starting. I mean, look, I know they've been touting Darryl Porter publicly, but that basically means he's not going to start to me, because they're certainly not going to tell North Carolina who their starting cornerbacks are going to be. They wouldn't mention Darryl Porter if they were planning to start him, in my opinion. So my guess is you got DJ Ivey again, Gary, your favorite cornerback. I know you love him. So you're going to have Tyreek, DJ Ivey.
DJ Ivey was great at Texas A&M.
Yes, he was.
Give us that DJ Ivy and we'll be fine.
Yeah, just keep replaying that Texas A&M game. And then and to Corey Couch, and I guess they'll have to work Porter in somehow or another. But you know that when North Carolina turns on that tape of that last game, if Kevin Steele, Kevin Steele, to his credit, took all the blame for that last loss. And you can see why. I mean, he kept putting the cornerbacks on an island against these receivers who were just running by guys one-on-one. And he's going to have to figure something different out against these wide receivers at North Carolina. Well, the problem, and maybe it's a good problem to have, because North Carolina, their running game is not the strongest, regardless of their average. Again, the one real game they played, they couldn't run the ball. And to me, the defensive line from Miami is good enough if they play the right guys. Okay, if they play the right guys, 80% of the plays the defensive line. And I do want to see the young guys, but I'm just talking about in terms of this matchup. You win the line of scrimmage just rushing 4, and that's the key to success in this game, because they can't keep going mano a mano with these wide receivers who are talented. You just can't. They need safety help. You can't bring the safeties up to the line. You can't have a lot of safety blitzes. The linebackers you can do some things with, but he's going to have to. I'm sure Kevin Steele realizes he's going to have some, at least one deep safety a play, basically off that last game. And if he doesn't, and does the same thing.
Also needs to not put the corners on an island in man coverage against Josh Downs.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And if he does what he did against Middle Tennessee with his secondary that I guess he thought was better than it was, maybe that's why he kept doing it. That's really not going to be good. Kevin Steele's experienced enough to know that he can't get away with that. So hopefully he throws some wrinkles at North Carolina. He's going to have to.
Hey, one thing we should note is that Corey Gaynor, the former Cane, starts at center for North Carolina. So he will be having a little bit of a reacquaintance session with many of his former teammates. So that should be kind of interesting. We got a couple more things.
The best was yesterday. So somebody, Tyler Van Dyke did his usual robotic interview, and somebody, was like, last question, and somebody says, "Hey, do you still talk to Corey Gaynor?" And Tyler Van Dyke's like, "No." And then they're like, "Interview over. Thanks, everybody."
Well, I'm going to tell you why that he doesn't talk to Corey Gaynor. In fact, I'm going to show you right now.
I know what you're thinking. Why do I get to star in my own commercial? Well, I was LifeWallet's first female athlete. So let me be the first to let you in on a little secret on how I've grown my NIL. Introducing LifeWallet Sports, a revolutionary platform giving athletes complete control over their NIL opportunities, connecting athletes to brands and businesses specific to their followers' likes and interests. And if that's not enough, this platform also helps athletes make connections outside their sports. So let's get connected on LifeWallet Sports. Take it from me. It's a hole-in-one.
All right, another story is on the website today. We've got the Tyreek Stevenson blog, and Matt, I always love getting Tyreek's viewpoints every week, and he really gives you a good picture of the pulse of the team, what everyone's thinking. So make sure you check that out today. We'll also be hearing from Mario Cristobal later on today around midday. So make sure you check in on the website for that story. We'll have that up for you as soon as it happens. And another thing that we should put on your radar is there is a basketball commit impending that we think is going to be coming on Thursday, and that is with a center by the name of Michael Nwoku. We have a story on him on the website today, so you can check that out, get to know him a little bit. I have put a recruiting prediction machine forecast in for him to become a Miami Hurricane on Thursday. I do believe that is going to happen. So that's going to do it.
Wait, what about the Lamar Thomas show? No love for Lamar.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I must throw in there that we will have the Lamar Thomas show tonight at 8:00, and My main man, Melvin Bratton, is going to be joining Lamar, myself, and Bruce Warner on the show. So, talking to Melvin is always a special thing. So make sure you come on for that. And we also are going to have some quarterback talk with Steve Walsh. So that'll be an interesting segment as well. Am I forgetting anything else, Matt?
Hold on. Oh, you know what? Azubi texted me. He says, Matt, Gary is my boss. That is the only reason I ever agree with him on the Good Morning CaneSport show. You are right about everything. Other than that, no, there's nothing else that I can share with you.
All right. Well, we'll let him go on that one. I won't fire him for that. It's all in fun. All right, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much as always for beginning your day with us. We will see you again tomorrow for Matt Shodell. I'm Gary Ferman. Have a great day, everybody.